The night of February 14th and into the early morning of the 15th, 1982, 41 years ago, the semi-submersible drilling rig named the Ocean Ranger capsized and sank 175 nautical miles east of St. John's. Before going down, a mayday was sent out and the rig was abandoned. Back then, it was almost impossible to safely launch lifeboats and get people into them in a raging North Atlantic storm. That night, 84 men, mostly Newfoundlanders, died in the dark, stormy, frigid waters. The cause of deaths, for most of them, was found to be drowning while in a hypothermic state. The Ocean Ranger was the world's largest semi-submersible drill rig, and it was only 6 years old. The Joint Federal Provincial Royal Commission on the Ocean Ranger marine disaster found that the crew lacked proper safety training, inadequate safety equipment, and there were no safety protocols for the supply ship. The inspections of the rig by the US and Canadian regulators and agencies were also inadequate, and the rig itself had a number of design and construction flaws. Colleagues, accidents usually occur because of failure of more than one system. In the case of this disaster 41 years ago, all things conspired against it. It was literally and figuratively the perfect storm. In this case, the Royal Commission determined that the specific reason was that a rogue wave smashed through the ballast control room porthole, and the seawater rendered the ballast control panel inoperable, leading to the listing of the rig, where the wave action took over and delivered the final blow. The ballast control porthole that had been smashed was 8.5 meters from the waterline, and the waves were approaching 20 meters. The wind was 190 kilometers an hour. There have been significant improvements in the safety culture in the Newfoundland offshore since then. Those who were here in this chamber in 2014 may recall that I introduced the Offshore Health and Safety Act in our chamber that updated the requirements for safety in the offshore. It passed unanimously in both chambers and is now the law in Canada's offshore. Training is better, equipment is better, processes are better, as is forecasting, but dangers always remain. I had the honour of attending a play in St. John's on Saturday evening called Rig, an oral history of the Ocean Ranger disaster, written by Mike Heffernan and adapted for the stage by Joan Sullivan. I spoke to them both over the weekend and met the cast. Of the dozen or so people portrayed in the play that were intimately involved in the aftermath of the disaster, I personally knew 4 of them. Our province becomes a smaller place when tragedy strikes, and there isn't one community that wasn't touched by this one. There are books and songs and plays and monuments, and there are those who still grieve. This evening and tomorrow, our province will commemorate the loss, and I invite all colleagues to do so as well. Thank you.